This is the Louie T Network.
Draft Zone. Draft Zone.
Welcome, you are in the lab room.
Draft
I'm your host, Luke. Thank you
Zone.
for joining me. 2014 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. Who's Next format. Be the first to leave a comment at the bottom of this and future videos stating the phrase next and the team you'd like to see next. Really simple process. We've been doing this for all of the teams. I really don't need to go much more into an explanation. So, how do we get a grade for all of these players? Simple. We use our baseball grading scale here on this program. Single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the draft wrap-up series, as we cannot tell how these players will pan out. Don't want to discount anybody. Do not want to count any of these players out. We take each and every single player, give them a grade, tally all those grades up, get an aggregate score for that team's draft, apply bonuses when necessary, give that team a grade, move on to the next team in the process. Sounds simple enough? That's because it is. So, now we're talking about a team that is usually good every single year. They find a way by hook or by crook to get into the postseason, and that's what the good teams in this league do. They find a way to get into the postseason even when they don't have their best season, and that's a mark of a really good football team. And I'm talking about the Green Bay Packers. Go, Pack, go! Go, Pack, go! And even with Aaron Rodgers on the shelf for about 2/3 of the season, the Green Bay Packers still managed to make the postseason last year. And it's because of drafts like the one we're about to unveil in 2014 that sees this franchise stay on top of their game. They just know how to do it. Thompson and Wolf and company, they just get it done. And there's a reason why there's remnants of this Packers front office all around this league, because they get it in Green Bay. And it starts in the draft, and they do a great job of drafting players that are Green Bay Packers. You ask yourself, what is a Green Bay Packer? I can't tell you exactly what it is and what that player consists of. I just know a Green Bay Packer when I see it. And a couple of these guys in this draft, they look like Green Bay Packers to me. So let's get to the big board. I've got my handy dandy pointer. Let's get to the big board and break down the 2014 NFL draft of the Green Bay Packers. So you look at this draft, 9 picks in all. Packers extremely busy. That's what they normally do. They normally are consistent in the draft. 9 to 7 picks usually every year, with a good portion of these players making their roster. Again, Packers normally do a great job in the draft of identifying talented football players that fit what they do in Green Bay. So we start in the first round, 21st overall selection, safety out of Alabama, Clinton Dix. Hassan Clinton Dix is a guy that fits perfectly into what the Packers want to do defensively. And this Packers defense hasn't been the same, especially in the back half of this defense, since Nick Collins went down with that career-threatening injury and hasn't been able to resume football activities. Don't think he's going to be back. I'm hearing Nick Collins talking about maybe he can come back. I don't think he wants to do that. I don't think it's necessary. But the Packers haven't been the same football team in the back half of that defense since Nick Collins has left. Not saying that he was the end-all, be-all, and not saying that he was the true difference maker back there, but he sure did make somewhat of a difference. And they've been searching for consistent safety play since his departure. And Charles Woodson was back there at one point, and you really had something good going back there. And now it's really a position of need for the Packers. And to see Hassan Clinton-Dix, Clinton Dix fall right to you. You get the last laugh, And I tell you what, Packers were fortunate because this was the guy that I thought was going to come off the board somewhere around 17, maybe even 19, somewhere right before the Packers. Maybe someone would trade up and get him before the Packers could get their hands on him. But he was right there. And to me, he was the best in terms of free safeties in this league. And what I'm going to do now is take the cap off the marker, put an F behind that S. He's a free safety in every sense of the word. He's a guy that I think has the most range of the safeties at the top portion of this drive. He can cover a lot of ground, does a really good job of reading the eyes of the quarterback and getting to the football. Isn't afraid to tackle, but isn't as physical as you would like him to be. That's why I feel so confident about putting that F behind that S, putting that F in front of that S, because to me, he's not as physical a presence at the safety position as you would like. And to me, when I think of strong safety, I think of a guy that's physical, that has a presence about him in the box, that will come down, drop the hammer. And again, at this point, the safety position has changed. To me, you have to be able to do a little bit of both. I've talked about this numerous times when breaking down these different drafts. When talking about safeties, you got to be able to do a little bit of both. And he can do just a smidge in the run game, and as an enforcer, he will come up and hit you. However, that's not his strong suit. Where his value is and where his presence will be felt most is in the back half of the defense, getting to the football, breaking up passes, showing up on time, trying to pick passes off. He's got a knack for being around the football, and so that's where his value is its greatest. To me, what separates him from the majority of the safeties in this draft and what makes him a first-round pick is his ability to cover a lot of space. He played for a coach like Nick Saban in college at Alabama, a guy that has, NFL ties and NFL pedigree, a guy that is a stickler for excellence and perfection in the secondary, Saban being an ex-secondaries coach himself. He's a guy that pays close attention to that position, so he's being coached by some of the best. So those things all go into play. He played at a powerhouse at Alabama, helped them to win a few national championships, or a couple, I should say, while he was there. So there is a lot to like about Clinton-Dix and what he was able to bring to the table to this Green Bay Packers franchise. He's a winner. He understands angles, takes really good ones to the football, makes plays on the football when he gets there, has good timing, doesn't show up to the party late usually. And so there's a lot to like here. The things that I don't like about Clinton-Dix is one thing in particular, the physicality, okay? There's a play that pretty much epitomizes him in a nutshell as far as physicality goes. And yeah, he'll come up and hit you. I'm not calling the man soft, and I'm not saying that he's not aggressive, but he's not as aggressive as I would like him to be. I'd like to see him be a little bit more aggressive. And there's a play in the Auburn game, of course, that was the game of the year in college football in 2013. And there's a touchdown that the quarterback, Nick Marshall, throws to the tight end. I think his name is Uzama. And he catches this football. It's like a wheel route up the sideline for about 18 yards or so. And Clinton-Dix reads the eyes of Nick Marshall a tad late, gets over there. Now, the cornerback has no idea the football's coming. He doesn't even look. He has no clue that the tight end is right there. He's in great position, and all he has to do is find the football. Never looks. So the football goes right over his head, right to the tight end. Clinton-Dix is in heavy pursuit, sees the tight end about to catch the football, and instead of him laying a shot on this tight end and seeing if he can hold on to the football, or coming over and at least prying at the football to see if he can get it out of the grasp of the tight end. He just pulls up and puts the brakes on and allows him to catch it, corral it, get his feet down, get settled in the end zone. It's a touchdown. Now, what I would have liked to have seen him do on that play was come over and lay a hellacious shot on that tight end and see if he can hang on. If he hangs on, you got a touchdown. I tip my cap to you. You got it. How about you come with a vicious club at the football and see if you can knock it out of his grasp? I need you to do something aggressively to see if you can make this an incompletion and not a touchdown. Instead, he puts on the brakes, allows the guy to catch the football, goes about his way. And that is the thing that frustrates me with him sometimes, is the lack of physicality. Be more physical, okay? Yes, I know that you don't want to pick up a senseless penalty. Yes, I know. Look, there's a fine line between picking up penalties and knocking the ball and jarring it loose. You got to be able to walk that line and walk that tightrope and make plays. And sometimes you got to be willing to take a 15-yard penalty. And look, that's a touchdown if he catches it. If they want to flag you for a late hit, and I don't think it would have been late, it would have been a bang-bang situation. They want to flag you, so what? It will come on the kickoff. You got to lay a shot on that tight end. You got to hit him. You can't allow him to catch that football, cleanly at least. You got to make him pay for it. And so those are the type of things I'd like to see him improve on. If you show up to the party late, you might as well deliver a blow. And he didn't do it on that play, and sometimes he has a tendency to do that, to not hit guys or not be aggressive, even when he's around to play sometimes. And he'll show up to a play, and a guy's going for extra yardage. He'll just stand there and watch like, oh, okay, you guys got it. I don't need to help you. And, you know, some people, that's not a big deal to me. Hey, I want you driving that pile backwards. Look, he might have gotten to the 31-yard line, but he's not getting to the 32. That's because you're going to come up and you're going to push that pile backwards. And so those are the little things that I take a look at. I don't know about you. I can't speak for anybody else, but those are the little things that drive me nuts. Hey, don't stand around. There's always something you can be doing, especially when you show up to the party late. Hey, you're already late. You might as well make up for being late. So I'd like to see him be a little bit more physical. But as far as a guy getting to the football, having some range, being able to play, he can play single high safety. I think he's got the range to do that. Not every single safety in this draft can lay claim to that, but I think Ha Clinton Dix is one of the few that can play single high safety and get to both hashes and not have a problem doing so. I think he's got that kind of ability and that kind of range to get from sideline to sideline and break up passes, and he's got enough instincts to see what's going on, read what the quarterback's trying to do, and make a play on the football. So there's a lot to like here. And because the Packers, I think, got great value in a guy that I thought was going to come off the board a little bit earlier than this, and it meets a huge position of need for this Green Bay Packers football team in the first round, 21st overall selection, safety out of Alabama. Go ahead and call him a free safety out of Alabama. Ha Clinton Dix for me is a home run. You can put it on the board. Yes, it's a home run. The Green Bay Packers in the first round. This was a position that they desperately needed to fill, and to be able to do it in the first round and get it out of the way with the guy that to me has the best range and is the prototypical free safety in this league today, a 6'1", 210-pound guy that can run, you know, good speed, is able to tackle very well, doesn't miss a lot of tackles, will come up and lower the boom on you occasionally. Not enough for my liking, but we've seen him deliver some shots before. I'd like to see him do that more often, but everything you're looking for is here. And he's going to patrol center field for you and give you something you've been missing for quite a bit in Green Bay. You move on to the second round, 53rd overall selection, wide receiver out of Fresno State, Devontae Adams. This is a Green Bay Packers pick if I've ever seen one. And to me, it amazes me how teams around the league, and look, I know it's not the other 31 teams against the Green Bay Packers in the draft. Every team is out for themselves. They're not worried about what other teams are doing unless it's in regards to a player that they want and they covet. But other than that, they're just worried about their board and getting the guys that they are high on. That's what the draft is about. Getting players that fit what you want to do schematically and getting them onto your football team and being able to pick them and select them at a place where you feel comfortable selecting them at. That's what the draft is about. But it just seems like teams like the 49ers and the Packers and to an extent the Ravens and all these teams that every year we look up and they're in the Super Bowl or they're in the championship game in their respective conference or they're winning their division. The teams that are annually in the postseason, they're there for a reason. Is because they hit in the draft. And the thing that always baffles me and is mind-boggling to me is how these teams year in and year out get their hands on players that they shouldn't be able to get their hands on, because when you win a division, when you make the postseason, you're drafting in the 20s. If you make the Super Bowl, you're drafting in the 30s. If you make it to the championship game, you're drafting in the late 20s, early 30s. So my question is, how does a guy like Davante Adams, and look, don't talk to me, miss me, please miss me. Let this go over my head about the wide open spread offense that he played with, elevated and inflated numbers. I don't give a damn about that, okay? The guy produced. He's 6'1", has a 39.5-inch vertical. He's 210 pounds. He's physical. He catches the football, snatches it out of the air, clean hands. No, he's not explosive. No, he doesn't have top-end speed to burn guys. Who cares? The guy's productive. He's going to be a beast in this league, and you let him go to Green Bay? Really? I mean, where's the psychological sense in that? You need to wash your face and get your mind right to let the Packers get their hands on a James Jones replacement. And this is what he is. But he's a James Jones replacement, but to me, he's better than James Jones. Maybe he doesn't possess the same amount of speed that James Jones does, but his hands are more consistent than James Jones's. His ability to go up and high point the football is better than James Jones's. This guy is going to come in and be the exemplary Green Bay Packer. He's going to come in, catch everything that Aaron Rodgers throws at him, going to go up and high point the football, going to be a guy that pulls in 85 catches for 1,222 yards and 9 touchdowns, 12 touchdowns. And you're going to look up and say, damn, how'd we let that guy get in Green Bay? I mean, the reason why the Packers are good is because they don't rebuild, they restock and reload at the receiver position. They were dealing with a slew of injuries last season. I mean, guys were falling all over the place. They were banged up. And yet, and I think that was 2 years ago as well. And yet, they're able to find a guy like Jared Boykins late in the draft about 3 years ago. And they're able to pull him out of the hat. He's fine. He's the reason why James Jones isn't in Green Bay anymore. Because Jared Boykins' emergence made it okay. Boykin coming in and playing the way he did made it okay for a guy like James Jones to no longer be here and be in Oakland now. And Davante Adams is going to come in and he's going to pick right up where James Jones and Greg Jennings and the rest of those guys left off at. This guy does it all. I mean, to me, yeah, he played in a wide open offense. Yeah, he caught a heck of a lot of bubble screens. His numbers are ridiculous, and they're ridiculous for a reason. He had like 123 catches last year, 1,700 and some change yards, like 20-something touchdowns. Yeah, outrageous numbers. Yeah, they were inflated because of the offense he played in, but he still had to produce. He still had to catch the football. He still had to get yards after the catch. So what, I throw you a bubble screen? So what, I throw you a hitch? So what, I throw you a slant? Okay? Anybody can catch those. It's what you do with the football afterwards, and he made things happen. He caught the ball in the end zone. He caught jump balls. He went up and got the ball and snatched it away from defenders. The guy's a football player. And the Packers got him in the second round. I don't get it. I just don't understand how guys like this end up in places like this. I just don't get it. This is a win for the Green Bay, a huge win for the Green Bay Packers. Davante Adams looks, smells, and feels the part of a Green Bay Packer. I don't know what else you want me to say? I don't know how else you can explain this, but this guy's a Packer. And you let him in Green Bay. How could you? I don't get it. Second round, 53rd overall selection, wide receiver out of Fresno State, Davante Adams. He's a home run. Go ahead and put it on the board. This is ridiculous that the Packers are allowed to get a football player of the caliber of Davante Adams. The second round, this is a guy that, to me, had borderline first-round talents. And, look, he was expected to go in the second round. Did I expect him to be there at 53? Maybe, maybe not. But the Green Bay Packers getting their hands on him, he's going to become the player that I believe he can be because he's on this Packers team. Maybe if he goes somewhere else and they're not as good and the organization isn't as stable and they don't have an all-world quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, maybe he doesn't become the player that I think he can become. But because he's in the most stable franchise in all of the National Football League, or one of them, and he's got the best quarterback in the league, arguably, in Aaron Rodgers. And, oh, yeah, by the way, now they have a running game with Eddie Lacy, and he's got a supporting cast with Jordy Nelson and company already there catching the football. This guy's going to become a stud in Green Bay. And you, yes, you, let it happen. Shame on you. Move on to the third round. 85th overall selection, defensive tackle out of Northern Illinois, Kyrie Thornton. To me, I watched the tape, was not impressed. Okay, now I listened to all the other pundits and all the other draft beatniks, and they tell me that this guy has the potential to be a difference maker. He just needs guidance. He needs to be in a position where he can succeed. Yada, 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 yada. So then, because I was done. I'd watched enough tape, but I felt like, and it was hard to scrounge up some tape on this guy. But what I saw, the little that I did see, wasn't impressed. So I said, okay, everybody can't be saying that this guy's good and he's just not. You know, I have my doubts about C.J. Mosley, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you the guy's garbage because I know the guy has talent. I've seen flashes. I just don't see it consistently enough. So, you know, the same can be said for Kyrie Thornton. I look at him and everyone's telling me had a couple of off-the-field things that saw him end up at Southern Miss. And he's a guy that went on the field, when fresh, he's a handful. He's going to give you everything he's got. I did see hustle. That's one thing you can't deny watching the tape, is that the guy hustles. Sideline to sideline, snap in, snap out. When he's fresh, he'll give you everything he's got. But I didn't see explosion. I didn't see the ability to knife into the backfield to make things happen. And then I watched the highlight, and I hate watching highlights. I think that's the easiest and cheapest thing you can do as an evaluator is watch highlights, because highlights are exactly that. They only show the good. There's no bad, there's no ugly, there's just everything good about that player. That's misleading because you watch highlights and you get sucked in, oh, this guy is great. There's a reason why he's in the third round and not a first round pick. There's a reason why, you know, other teams didn't even have this guy on their board until the fifth round. There's a reason why. And so highlights diminish all of that. That's why I don't watch them. I don't want to watch highlights. That's the easy way out. But I didn't have a choice because there's a reason why Mike Mayock feels good about this guy. There's a reason why Mel Kiper Jr. and guys that I don't even trust like Todd McShay are telling me that this guy is a can't-miss prospect. And so I had to go back and watch the highlights. I had to give in because there wasn't enough tape for me to feel satisfied with the evaluation that I had, which was that this guy was nothing. So I said, okay, the Packers don't draft third-round picks that are nothing. They don't do that. If this were maybe the Tennessee Titans or this were some other franchise that has okay drafts year in and year out, maybe. You know, if this were the New York Jets or this were the Washington Redskins or one of these teams that misses in the draft all the time, maybe I would say, yeah, this guy, he's not all that good. What were they doing here? But this is the Packers, much like the Seahawks and the 49ers and the Ravens. I trust the front office to a fault. So if they tell me that a guy is good in the third round, I take their word for it. So I had to do my due diligence. And because it's the Packers, I had to go back and watch the highlights because I didn't have enough tape. And the highlights told a different story. They told me that this guy is explosive, that this guy can get into the backfield with the best of them, that this guy will fight you tooth and nail, that this guy will do everything in his power to get in the backfield and create a tackle for loss. This guy will do everything in his power, and I saw this on tape myself, he'll do everything in his power to get to the football. Whether it's running 12 yards down the field, whether it's chasing a play from the backside down, whether it's running 25 yards down the field and trying to get into the play, that's what he'll do. He's that type of player, and I saw it in the highlights, okay? So my problem now is because the little bit of tape that I got to watch, I didn't see any of that. So that means there's a consistency issue here. He's a two-down player, okay? He's a one-gap player, two-down player. So I'm thinking the Packers see him as a 5 technique because I don't think he's a two-gap player. I didn't see that on tape. And he's not big enough to anchor the middle of the field. He's not big enough to take on 2 blockers and not be moved. And so he's a 5 technique. He doesn't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. He's starting the run game, can get in the backfield and make tackles. So there's some things to like here. I just need to see more of it because, again, I didn't see enough of it. That's why I had to go to the highlights. So in the 3rd round, 85th overall selection, defensive tackle out of Northern Illinois, Kyrie Thornton. For me, look, I see what the Packers see. I just didn't see enough of it. So the guy's got potential. The guy, he hustles. When he's tired, much like the rest of these 300-pound behemoths, he's useless. You keep him fresh. You rotate him in and out. I think another thing that the Packers like is his versatility. He'll play at the tackle position. He'll play at defensive end. You can move this guy around, but again, you play a 3-4 defense. So I'm thinking the 5 technique, whether it's left or right defensive end, is where he needs to be. Maybe in nickel situations, you can line him up at defensive tackle if you like. But again, doesn't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, so I don't know where the benefit of that would be. But again, solid football player. He's a double for me. I just didn't see enough to have him warrant anything more than a double. I just didn't see this guy flashing enough ability in the tape that I watched. Now, again, I could have been watching the wrong tape. Very possible. Because the highlights, they tell a different story than the tape that I watched. But I'm only going off of what I saw. He's a double. A lot of potential here, though. A lot of potential. Yet, it's still a double. 2nd, 3rd round pick, 98th overall, tight end out of California. Richard Rodgers is the selection. And this is a guy that catches the football, can make plays. He's a big guy, 6'4", 255, 260 pounds. The knock on him is that he has to develop as a blocker, and he's working on that. You could see him getting better as time goes on. You put on 2012 tape, he's not a good blocker. You put on 2013 tape, he's a better blocker. So he's improving at that aspect of his game. However, the biggest knock on him is his weight. And he's a guy that fluctuates. I don't think it's a big issue. I'm not going to sit here and talk about him gaining and losing weight. Look, in 2012, he was like 280 pounds, 275 pounds. He knocks off 30 pounds and gets to about 255. And basically what it was is it was a coaching change. He gets injured, injures his foot, can't really work out, can't run, doesn't stay in shape, balloons, gains weight, gets healthy, his foot heals, his shoulder or whatever else was injured, it heals. He can work out. The coaching changes take place, and he's able to get a solidified role on the football team. He gets into shape. He's back to what he was before. It's not a big deal to me, okay? So I think this is what he is. He's a 250 to 260 pound tight end that will run, that will catch the football if you throw it to him. Is he as athletic as Jermichael Finley? No, he's not. Can he be another Andrew Quarles? Why not? Why can't he be another Andrew Quarles? I don't see why not. I mean, he's solid. I think he's a long guy, can catch the football, can run after the catch. Is he going to run away from defenders? No. Not his game. Can he turn a 6-yard completion into a 56-yard completion? Sure. Is he going to probably score a touchdown on that play without blocking? Nah, not going to do it. But he'll get it down to the 5-yard line. That's good enough for me. The guy's solid. Big frame. Gives you a nice radius to throw the football to. He'll fit in Green Bay. Can he learn how to block better? Absolutely. Absolutely. The saying in the league is the next best blocking tight end would be the first. So just add him to the list of guys that need to learn how to block better. But there's a lot here to like. Out of the tight end from Cal, Richard Rodgers to me is a solid pickup. Will replenish a position that is somewhat low in Green Bay in the tight end position. Just seems like the Packers needed an infusion of athleticism at the tight end position. Not quite sure if Richard Rodgers is it. He's something. Don't think he's what the Packers to me are always one dynamic tight end away from being the most explosive offense in the league. Now that you got a running game, your offense is official. Now, for you to be one of the most explosive offenses in the league, you need an athletically gifted tight end. Not sure that Richard Rodgers is that. He can be productive for you in the passing game, but he's not going to knock your socks off. Jermichael Finley always flashed that potential to be one of the most gifted tight ends in the league. He just was too clumsy. So he would never be that, but at least the ability to scare defenses and tantalize you with that ability was there. That's not there with Richard Rodgers. Doesn't mean he's not going to be a solid tight end. In the third round, 98th overall selection, tight end out of California, Richard Rodgers for me is a double. And doesn't display explosive speed, doesn't possess it. Not going to run by anybody, but he's going to be a solid football player. And the Packers could use that at the tight end position right now. You move on to the fourth round, 121st overall selection, linebacker out of Arizona State, Carl Bradford. Like this pick a lot because this guy has versatility. Now, where are you going to play him? I don't have the answer for that, but I will tell you this much. This guy's a football player. You got to find a place for him on the field because there's a lot of energy. He plays under control. For as energetic and explosive as this guy can be, he plays under control. I like that because there's something to be said for a guy that has controlled aggression and controlled chaos. We see guys running around all the time, like a Dion Buchanan and some of these other guys that run around and are explosive, but they miss tackles all the time, and they can be out of position because of their explosiveness, and it frustrates you. You know, you see a guy like Kirksey, linebacker out of Iowa, and his ability to run all over the field, drafted by the Cleveland Browns. It's amazing. Guy's fast, can run, but he's out of control sometimes. You know, LaMarcus Joyner, Rams safety, drafted out of Florida State. Guy is athletically gifted. He runs around like a chicken with his head cut off, and you better watch out because when he gets a bead on you, he's coming with everything he's got. Not a big guy, but he doesn't care. He's going to lay the lumber to you. But he's out of control. And he'll miss a tackle. No problem. Same with his running mate at the safety position in Brooks out of Florida State. Fast 4.4 40 guy will run around, will thump you. But at the same breath, he'll miss. He'll whiff. Carl Bradford runs around with that same reckless abandon, but it's controlled. So he comes under control. He does his job. He keeps contained. Yeah, he'll run to that quarterback very fast, and then he'll break down, and he contain himself and make sure that you're not getting outside or that he's not going to be sidestepped by a simple ole, and he's going to miss and go flying by. He's controlled in his movement, and I like that. Here's the knock on him. Here's why he's a fourth-round pick, because in 2012, he was one of 5 players in the nation to compile at least 80 tackles, 20 tackles for loss, and over 10 sacks. Not a lot of guys, as you can imagine, I just said one of 5 that were doing it. So the guy's productive. 20.5 tackles for loss, 11.5 sacks in 2012. Follows that up in 2013 with another 23.5 tackles for loss or something crazy like that. And another 8.5 sacks. The guy's productive. And his versatility is what struck me as odd for a guy his size. 6'1", 250. Not a big guy, but he's well built. And they played him at defensive end, both left and right. They played him at inside linebacker. He stood up as an edge rusher. He was all over the place, man. He was all, I mean, you didn't know where Carl Bradford was going to be from snap to snap. And that's how I want to see him used in Green Bay. Can he be a defensive end? No. Do you want him necessarily setting the edge in the run game? Probably not. Probably not. Probably don't want that. But he can. Where he is his greatest and is a biggest threat to the opposing team is when he's blitzing. They ran some of the most beautiful stunts at Arizona State for this guy. And they were so well orchestrated and so beautifully executed. He come in scot-free and he runs them. And I told you, this is part of him being under control. He takes a stutter step towards the line of scrimmage and waits for this stunt to take place. A couple of guys darting this way, and he just calmly and smoothly and explosively comes inside underneath the stunt, scot-free, and has the most explosive beeline to the quarterback you'll see in college football. Lights the quarterback up, forced a couple of turnovers doing that. He's a guy with an explosive first step off the edge. Because he's 6'1", he's low to the ground. So once he gets by, a simple duck under with that, low center of gravity, hard to get a hand on him. He's by you and off on his way to the quarterback. Saw him strip a few quarterbacks that way. The guy's explosive. You got to find a place for him. Mike Mayock says he doesn't like him as an edge rusher. I say, why not? I don't care he's short. I don't care he has short arms. This is what I'm saying. You don't want him out there on every single snap. You got Julius Peppers and Clay Matthews for that. What I'm saying, and even Nick Perry to a degree, what I'm saying is you can sneak him out there at times, put him in inside linebacker at times, move this guy around. When you've got one of these packages where you're putting like 5 or 6 or 7 guys that can get to the quarterback on the field all at once, Carl Bradford should be a part of that package. End of discussion. When you're putting Nick Perry and J. Pep and Clay Matthews and all of those guys on the field at once, he needs to be on the field too. And he'll find a way to the quarterback. Can drop into coverage at times, not necessarily where you want him to be, but he can do it. Did it a couple of times at Arizona State. This guy's versatile. I know that much. And I know he's productive. I know that much as well too. And he's going to help you on special teams. I just like this dude. I mean, watching him on tape, he's the kind of guy you root for because he just does so much. And he does it all well. And so, in the 4th round, 121st overall selection, linebacker out of Arizona State, Carl Bradford for me, is a triple. I like this guy. I like the production. I like what he brings to the table. He's so versatile. You can put him on the field at about 3 or 4 different positions. He'll play all of them well. To me, if this guy was 6'3" and 250 pounds, he's either a 2nd or a 1st round pick. But because he's 6'1" and he has short arms, he's a 4th round pick. I don't care about that stuff. Find a place for this guy on the field, and he will produce for you. And I think the Packers understand that, and that's why they made him a 4th round selection. You move on to the 5th round, 161st overall selection, center out of Ohio State, Corey Linsley. And this is a simple eval. You put on the tape, and this guy's solid. Not going to knock your socks off. Isn't a guy that you want necessarily getting to the 2nd and 3rd level. But at the line of scrimmage, he's not a guy that is going to be bull rushed easily. I think he had like 36 reps of 2 1/4. Strong kid, okay? Really strong kid. Not a guy that you're necessarily going to beat with speed. I will say this. When he's beat with speed, he cannot recover. If he turns to help the guard on his left shoulder double team the defensive tackle, and someone comes with a late, let's call it a green dog blitz. Supposed to be checking the running back out of the backfield. Running back doesn't go out for a pass, he's blocking, and they decide to come on a late blitz, and he darts up to the line of scrimmage, and Lindsley sees it late. Lindsley's ability to change direction, turn his hips, move his feet, and get to that blocker is limited at best. So I saw guys run by him when he wasn't paying attention, and then when he noticed it at the last second and tried to recover, he couldn't. There was one time where I saw him absolutely assault one guy, tackle him essentially. He didn't get called for the penalty. I don't know how he didn't get called, but that was his way of recovering. I saw another 2 times where they just ran by him. He tried, he couldn't get his hands on him. So if he's beaten with speed, he's beaten. He can't recover. But when he's paying attention, speed normally isn't an issue for him. When he's paying attention, power is normally not a problem for him. The only thing is that when he's out in space, he's at a disadvantage because he's not as athletic. And when someone with speed is able to catch him off guard, he can't react. But other than that, the guy's as solid as I saw at the center position. He did his job. He did it well. He opened up holes. Does he move the line of scrimmage? Does he move guys out of the way? Does he generate movement in the run game? Not necessarily. Not as much as I would like him to, but he does his job. He walls off defenders. He gives you a clear path which to run. There's a decisive path to which you can pick off of his block. He's not one of these guys that just blocks and you don't know, should I cut this way or that way off of his block? He'll wall off a defender and give you a clear avenue to run. Is he going to move a guy 2 or 3 yards off the line of scrimmage? No, it's not his job. That's not what he does. It is his job, but he doesn't do it well. But he will wall off a defender and give you a path to run. And so I do like that about him. To me, it's a simple evaluation. The kid is strong. He could stand to gain about 7 or 8 pounds. He was the lightest offensive lineman at the combine at 296 pounds. Look, you can't do that anymore in this league. 296-pound linemen are the way of the past. You can't do that anymore. Okay, guys, he was able to hold up at Ohio State at 296 pounds, no problem. And that's fine. That's okay at the college rank. In the NFL, 296 pounds gets you put in the lap of the quarterback. And I know you're benching 2 1/4, 36 times, and that shows brute strength. However, these guys at this level are just as strong as you. Maybe not benching 2 1/4, 36 times, but they've got raw strength. And they'll pick you up and jack you up and put you in the lap of the quarterback. And so if he can gain another 8 to 10 pounds and get stronger and be able to anchor just a tad bit better, I don't see why this guy won't be a serviceable center in this league. 5th round, 161st overall selection, center out of Ohio State. Corey Linsley, for me, is a double. Solid player, good tape, good feet. Not as athletic as you would like him to be. Strong as an ox. Think he'll make a really good pro at this level. If not a starter, he'll be a solid backup for years to come. You move on to the second 5th round selection for this Packers team. 176th overall selection. Wide receiver out of Wisconsin, Jared Abbrederis. Here's another Green Bay Packer right here. Does anybody in the league collect white receivers like the Packers do? I mean, man, they get some good ones. And there's another one later on in the draft that I like just as much as Jared Abbrederis. So, no one collects white receivers quite like the Green Bay Packers. Jordy Nelson is a hell of a football player. That's what they do. They collect these guys and they make them into ball players. Like Eric Decker would be a great Packer. He just looks like a Green Bay Packer. But anyway, Jared Abbrederis for me, to me, one of the 3 best route runners in this draft, in the entire draft. Odell Beckham Jr. and Marquise Lee, for me, are the other 2 that I think are slightly ahead of him. And then you find Jared Abbrederis. Just runs clean and crisp routes, creates separation with his ability to run routes. He's not a slow guy. He's a 4.5 40 flat guy. So he can also run. At 6'1", there's some height, some leaping ability. Where he needs to improve is strength. At 198 pounds or so, he benched 2 1/4 a whopping 4 times. I can do 2 1/4 4 times in my sleep, man. Like, that is pathetic. And so that's what you call functional strength. He's barely functional with his strength at the receiver position. So that means if a guy gets in his grill and is jamming him and being physical with him at the line of scrimmage, chances are he's going to have trouble getting off of that jam, because 4 reps of 2 1/4 means you're pretty weak. Okay? So what I need him to do is get functionally stronger. I need him to be able to block better down the field. He'll get in the way, but he's not as good a blocker as I believe he should be. I also need him to go and make more plays away from his body when catching a football. He's a guy that will trap the ball against his body. And look, if you catch it, you catch it. I don't really care how you catch it. But we know the ball can beat you up sometimes when you do it that way. And with his ability, I'd like to see him high point the football a little bit more. Other than that, this guy to me is a gem in the 5th round. I love the selection. He does it all. I mean, he's got some injury concerns, had a couple of concussions. I think that also was a knock on him in this draft. He's a guy that has found it hard to stay healthy at times. But you put that stuff aside, the production is huge at Wisconsin. He started out as a walk-on and ended up a, #1 receiver, big play, big time guy when he left Wisconsin. To go from where he came from to what he ended up becoming, legendary. Legendary. And so if he can stay clear of the concussions, get stronger as a football player, Jared Abbrederis is going to be one of those guys that we're talking about 3 or 4 years from now as another one of these Packer receivers that steps out of nowhere, steps from behind the shadows and into the limelight, and is a guy that Aaron Rodgers is trusting throwing the football to. And it could happen as early as year 2. It could happen as early as year 1. I mean, the guy he's polished as a receiver, as a route runner, at least in my mind. And so you get stronger, be more consistent catching the football away from your frame. And there's a lot to like here. So much so that in the 5th round, 176th overall selection, wide receiver out of Wisconsin, Jared Abbrederis for me is a triple. This guy's a football player. Mama, he's a football player. And I'm going to tell you what, if he gets stronger, can steer clear of the concussions, he's the next in the long line of ultra-productive Green Bay Packer receivers. You move on to the 6th round, 197th overall selection, cornerback out of Baylor, Dimitri Goodson. This guy right here is underrated. And I'll tell you why he's a 6th round pick in a second. But watching the tape, thoroughly impressed. And at times I questioned why he was a 6th round pick. You watch him on tape. First tape I put on was the bowl game against Central Florida. Look, you're playing against Blake Bortles and that explosive offense. You know Blake is going to chuck it 35 times, going to run it another 7 or 8. You're going to get worked at the cornerback position if you're playing against Central Florida. So I wanted to see how he fared. And I thought he held up. I thought he was aggressive. I thought that he challenges receivers. He's in the face of the receiver. He's playing off. He's playing up. He's challenging routes. I was impressed. He had a pick in that game, stayed on top of the receiver, step for step, hip for hip, then actually took the lead and picked the ball off. Stayed on top of the receiver the whole time. Made a play on the ball, picked it off. Impressive. Thought he was impressive that entire game. Was all over the receivers. So then I put on another tape because I'm like, there's got to be a reason this guy's a 6th-round pick. Right. So I put on another tape. And it was against Texas. And he was all over the receivers again, deflecting passes and just being a nuisance. I said, what's the deal here? Why is this guy a 6th-round pick? I mean, what are we doing here? And then I put on one more tape for good measure because I'm like, there's no way that this guy could be this consistent in a 6th-round pick. And I put on another tape and I saw more of the same. So I said, okay, what's the problem here? Somebody talk to me. So, you know, I read up on this guy and I take a look at some of the things that, it perturbed me, annoyed me. But again, I'm willing to overlook that stuff because of some of the other things he was doing on the field. So then you tell me he's a 2-year starter, a guy with essentially 2 years of experience. He's a basketball player. Played at like Gonzaga or somewhere, started for them, and then wanted to give football another shot because he realized there's not a lot of space in the NBA for a 5'11" point guard. Not a lot of space in the league for those guys. So he realizes I've got a better shot at making it at football if I can get my act together. And you look at his injury history, and it's a long laundry list of injuries. A guy that is always banged up. So you go with the approach that he's raw, 2 years of production. He's injury prone, missed a good portion of 2012 with an injury. If not, and I argue that if not for the NCAA granting this guy a hardship year of injury and giving him another opportunity in 2013 after him being basically out the entire 2012 season, if them not granting him that injury hardship season for 2013, he didn't get drafted. He didn't get to realize his dream because he didn't get to show the scouts his ability. But because he got 2013 and was granted that extra year of eligibility and was able to go out and show, because all of the tape I watched was from 2013 and all of it was good. And so because he got that extra year to show the scouts what he was made of, he got himself drafted. But the injuries are a concern. 2 years of college football experience at the cornerback position is a concern. And physicality from a tackling standpoint is a concern. So you factor those 3 things in, and voila, you find yourself a 6th-round pick. But I'm telling you right now, all the intangibles are there for this guy to start. Not just be a solid corner, to start for you at some point. He's that good, at least what I saw on tape. Now, he's raw. He's raw. Still wet behind the ears. Breath smelling like Similac. Needs a lot more seasoning. But I tell you what, the aggressiveness, the mental approach that you need to have at the cornerback position is there. The only thing that I do not like right now about him is that he could give a damn about tackling. And it's not necessarily as much tackling as it is getting off of blocks. He single-handedly, in my mind, was responsible for about 2 touchdowns in that Central Florida game because of his laziness and his inability to get off of blocks. Allowed simple passes to turn into huge 40 and 60-yard touchdowns. If he were to give me more effort on those particular plays, I don't know if they go for touchdowns. I don't know if those turn into 14 points for Central Florida in that particular game that they end up winning. He needs to be more aggressive in getting off of blocks. There's too many times I'm watching the tape and I see this guy being blocked and he's just being blocked. And he's not showing me the effort and the want to get off of the block. He's I'll get off the block if I can. If I can, you know what time it is. I mean, you guys got it, right? No, we don't have it. We need you to get off the block and make a tackle. I'll do it next time. No, there is no next time. I need that sense of urgency in getting off of blocks. But when you're talking about from a standpoint of just covering guys, getting up in their face and challenging receivers and switching up the coverage that is played, 7 yards off, 5 yards off, in the face of the receiver, and being aggressive at every different level, I like what I saw. And I'm telling you right now, with the proper coaching, this guy has the potential to be a gem down the road. In the 6th round, 197th pick overall, cornerback out of Baylor, Demetri Goodson. Because of what I saw on tape and the upside that I believe he has because he's so raw, he's a triple. And I don't give out many 6th-round triples. Doesn't happen often. But I like what I see here. I mean, I'm surprised that, yeah, I understand the injury concerns, and he's a 25-year-old. To me, scouts, sometimes they overanalyze. They can be almost too smart for their own good. Oh, he's going to be 25 as a rookie. Who gives a damn? I don't give a damn he's going to be 25. What does that mean? What, 1 or 2 years less in his prime? Give me a break. If I get 4 good years out of this guy, who cares? Who cares? He's a triple. I like this guy a lot. Everything that I saw on tape other than the inability to get off blocks was amazing to me. You get this guy and get the proper coaching and you put him in positions to succeed. I don't see how he doesn't. And so you move on to the final pick in this draft. 7th round, 236th overall selection, wide receiver out of Saginaw Valley State, Jeff Janis. This is a guy that I saw at the combine and fell in love with. All the measurables you could ask for, 6'3", 220 pounds, runs a sub 4.5 40. And I'm not talking 4.47, 4.49. I'm talking 4.4 240. Now, is it straight line speed? You betcha. But damn it, it is speed nonetheless. And you either got that kind of speed or you don't. And you saw it on the tape. And that's always the next order of business. When in the process of transitioning from the combine to the draft and seeing where guys end up, is putting on the tape and seeing if everything that you saw at the combine jives and meshes with what you saw at the combine. See if it matches on tape. And I put on the tape for Jeff Janis. And I'm here to tell you that it did. It did. And look, when you play at Saginaw Valley State, you need to be dominant. And Jeff Janis was dominant. My goodness. In 2012, he set Division II records and Saginaw Valley State records and conference records for, you know, yards and catches and all of that good stuff. Like 90-something catches, 18-something yardage-wise, and like 14 touchdowns. Something stupid out of this, ridiculous. And then the next year, he follows that up in 2013 with like 83 catches and, I don't know, like 17 or 1,900 yards. It's just ridiculous numbers. And what you say to that is, wow. And that's what I want to see. What's my number one prerequisite for a small school guy trying to make it to the league? Dominate the competition. That's right. If that's not competition, if you don't call that dominating the competition, I don't know what is, folks. I don't know what is. So you watch on tape, and the thing that impressed me the most was that at 6'3", 220 pounds, he did it all. He ran the short stuff, the hitches, the slants, the quick outs, the speed outs. He ran the intermediate routes, the digs, the posts, the curls, the comebacks. And then he ran the deep stuff, the deep post, the 9 route, you name it. He did it for Saginaw Valley State. He was their entire offense. Teams knew he was getting the ball, and he still was able to perform at a high level. He's got the ability to take a short pass, turn it into a big gain. He's got the ability to split the defense run by the cornerback, catch the safety flat-footed, run by both of them, and run under the football. Now, again, when you play at Saginaw Valley State, how good is the competition? I don't know. I don't know. I know it's not NFL caliber, but 4.4 240 is 4.4 240. 38-inch vertical is 38-inch vertical. Athleticism and speed is athleticism and speed at any level. Doesn't matter where you're playing. And so Jeff Janis possesses all of those things. Now, a couple of knocks on this guy. A, he played at Saginaw Valley State. The level of competition there, at best, is marginal. So what? But that is something that you have to take into consideration. Will he be able to be the dynamic playmaker that he was at Saginaw Valley State in Green Bay? Who knows? I know that he's athletic and that stuff translates. I know that he's big at 6'3". That translates. He needs to be able to high point the football better. There are too many times in the tape that I saw small guys jumping with him. And maybe this was on the quarterback too, because some of these throws weren't the best. They weren't the greatest throws. But at 6'3", 220 pounds, I expect you to use your body, use your frame to box guys out and make plays on the football, high point it and go up and get it. Sometimes he doesn't do that. He's got good hands. Sometimes he will drop the football, though. These are all things he can work on. Become a better blocker, yada, yada, yada. You know, the rhetoric. Look, in the 7th round to get a guy like this with this much talent and potential, mind-boggling. Jeff Janis, for me, is a freak. 6'3", 220, 4'4", 240, 38-inch vertical. That is ridiculous. Okay? Question is, how does he assimilate to the NFL speed? How does he assimilate to the physicality of this game and the athletes and caliber of players he'll be going up against every week? If he can make that adjustment and transition smoothly, you got yourself a steal in the 7th round. This wide receiving corps for the Packers, it stays deep and it remains deep, and it just got deeper with the addition of this 7th round pick, 236th overall selection, wide receiver out of Saginaw Valley State. Jeff Janis, for me, is a double. I wanted to give him a triple because of the freakish athleticism and the production, but I had to keep it in perspective. He did play at Saginaw Valley State, and I want to see if he can use all of his ability, because he doesn't make guys miss. He's a straight line speed guy. So is he going to be able to use his speed and his size to his advantage at this level? I've got questions. I want to see if Jeff Janis has the answers. I'm rooting for this guy because he is a freak. And I think the Packers, a perfect destination for him to blossom as a football player. So you look at this draft as a whole for the Packers, and you just say, wow. The Packers, they do it. They do it well. Safety position need is met in safety Clinton Dix. Home run, Devontae Adams. Just a Green Bay Packer in my eyes, comes in, going to be ultra productive in this system. He's a home run as well. Kyrie Thornton has the ability to be explosive and a difference maker along the defensive line. I just didn't see it enough. Needs to be more consistent. He's a double out of Northern Illinois, or was it Southern Mississippi? I get confused. Richard Rodgers, tight end out of California. He is a double. I just don't see enough explosiveness. I see a guy that can catch it, that can run after the catch. Just don't see a guy that's going to be a huge difference maker. I may be wrong. Just don't see a guy that's going to be a huge difference maker. He's a double. Carl Bradford, for me, linebacker out of Arizona State, is an interesting case because this is a guy that played multiple positions at Arizona State, was ultra productive. He's small at 6'1", 250, but there's a place on the field somewhere for him. Love his production, love his motor, love him being under control, and love the fact that this guy can make plays. He's a triple. Corey Linsley, center out of Ohio State, solid football player. He's a double. Jared Aberdarius, just love the ability to run routes. He's polished right now in that regard. Can catch the football. Got to get stronger. 4 reps of 2 1/4 is ridiculous. It's unfathomable at that level, at that age. You should be lifting that at least 7 times, minimum. That's embarrassing. Get better, get stronger. But he's still a triple because the guy, I think, in the 5th round, there's some injury concerns there as well. But with his production and his ability to run routes and create separation that way at 6'1", running a 4.5 40 flat, there's a lot of good stuff here with Jared Abadaris. He's a triple for me. Demetri Goodson, cornerback out of Baylor. I see potential here, folks. This is a guy that is raw, 2 years of experience at Baylor, but telling you right now, with the right coaching and some more schooling, and if he's put in the right positions to succeed, I don't see how this guy doesn't. I don't think he can fail. He's just too talented. Yeah, he's only 5'11", but that's good size for me. I don't know about you, that's good size for me. His ability to make plays on the football, uncanny. I like him. He's a triple. And in the 7th round, Jeff Janis, wide receiver out of Saginaw Valley State. The measurables off the charts, 6'3", 220, 4'4", 240, 38-inch vertical. This guy's a freak. Huge production at Saginaw Valley State. This is a gem in the 7th round. And this is why the Packers are so good at the draft game, because even down to the last drop, even down to the last pick, they're still getting maximum value out of their draft. You know how you got that beverage and you get down to the last little bit and it was so good, and you take that last sip and you're looking at it and you're like, man, that was good, and that last sip was just as good as the first? That's how I feel about this Packers draft. The last pick was just as good as the first. Now, is it the same quality of football player? No. But in terms of value at that pick, it's just as good as the first one. And that's why you got to love the Green Bay Packers and what they do in their draft board, in their draft room. They get it done. And so let's tally this thing up. 9 picks in all. Home run, that's 8. Double, that's 10. Double, that's 12. Triple, that's 15. Double, that's 17. Triple, that's 20. Triple, that's 23. Double, to round out the draft, that's 25. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 doubles, so you get a doubles bonus, that's 27. And 1, 2, 3 triples, you get a triples bonus for that. That's 30. Divide that by 9. Green Bay Packers come through with a solid triple. It's a 3.3 triple for the Green Bay Packers in the 2014 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. What else did you expect? I mean, this is the Green Bay Packers, and this is what they do. Okay? They knock it out of the box in the draft, which is why they're a good team annually. And so, if it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. I thank you for joining me. That's been the 2014 NFL Draft Wrap-Up of the Green Bay Packers. It's a triple. Who's next?
Draft Zone.
Like the content? Want more? Sub up.